Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to Jam Bets. Monday night football today. We've got the Rams versus the Vikings over there. It's going to be in Arizona. So I am Tike, joined as always by the marvelous Momma Mia. We're going to be going over a couple things today. We're going to do our recaps of our picks and plays from the Saturday and Sunday Super Wild Card game. And then we're going to dive right into tonight's Monday Night Football. So I'm going to kick it off with the Saturday games. Saturday, first game of the playoffs started off with Chargers and Houston. We thought the Chargers were going to win this game. They did not. Houston came to play, which surprised me. It was good to see. I'd given two picks for that game. I had picked Ladd McConkey as my overperformer. No doubt, he absolutely overperformed. Had a legacy career game. And then as for my underperformer, I picked Nico Collins. I wouldn't say Nico Collins underperformed. He had 7 receptions, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then the Saturday night game was the Steelers versus the Ravens. We thought, divisional game in the playoffs. 9.5 point spread, way too much. We both thought that the Steelers were going to cover that 9.5. No chance. The Ravens beat the shit out of the Steelers. The Steelers weren't even in that game. For that game, I had given 2 picks. My overperformer, I had picked Derrick Henry. He absolutely overperformed. He was just literally unstoppable. I did give out that I thought Derrick Henry was also going to beat his receiving line at 4.5 yards. He didn't get a target. Rightfully so. He didn't need a target. Ravens just ran the ball however they wanted. Going into the fourth quarter, Derrick Henry was averaging 9.2 yards per carry. That is just insane. Like, why? No need to pass the ball when that's happening. So it is what it is. The other pick that I had given out was Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth had 7 straight games of 3 receptions. There on Saturday, he had 3 receptions as well for 15 yards, but he did hit the receiving. Mamma Mia, how about you on Saturday?
Well, on Saturday, I think I had the running backs totally confused. I said Dobbins was going to overperform. Not a chance. He had 9 carries, 26 yards. I said Mixon was going to underperform. He overperformed. 25 carries, 106 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 catch for 13 yards. He did have 1 fumble, but he had a great game. I said Collins was going to overperform. He did. I said Derwin James was going to overperform. He had a pretty good game. I said that Quentin Johnson was going to be a ghost, and he caught 0 of 5 targets. 0. Time of possession, Houston had the ball for 34, a little over 34 minutes, and Los Angeles 34 and a half minutes. So Herbert was horrible. I don't know if the praise has gone to his head. He doesn't think he has to play like a good quarterback anymore, or if he's just really a bust. 14 of 32 passes, 242 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. He just had a really bad night, bad day. So that was not good for him. Then I walked on to my Pittsburgh Steelers are driving me crazy. I said Wilson needed to have a big game. He had an okay game. He had 20 of 29 for 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times. He rushed 3 times for 6 yards. He was okay, but he needed to be Superman on that day, and it didn't happen. I said Boswell would struggle. He did. He had the 2 extra points. Big deal. Henry was my favorite on the Baltimore's to overperform. Mike said he did, and he did. And my underperformer was Bateman. He had 2 targets. He caught both of them for 24 yards, but he did have 1 touchdown. So for him, that's probably, the way he's going to go. Time of possession, Pittsburgh had the ball for a little over 20 minutes, which means Baltimore almost had the ball for 40 minutes. It was both those games were pretty much a blowout. It looked like Houston took those 3 points that were given to them by the line and beat the Chargers over the head with it, beating them by 20 points. So But both those games were shocking to me at how good those defenses were. The defense on Houston played really well as Baltimore's defense. I did not expect those defenses to play that well. So what did you get for Sunday then?
Yeah, so Sunday we started off with Bills Broncos. We both picked the the Bills to cover the 8.5 points. They absolutely did that. I had given an over and underperformer in that game. I picked Cooks as my overperformer. He absolutely overperformed. 23 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Bills were up so much that they actually just sat Cooks down for probably about half the fourth quarter there. They did bring him in when they got back into the red zone. Then my underperformer that I had given was Cortland Sutton. I'd say he probably had a little bit of an average game. Sutton had 5 receptions for 75 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then for the Packers-Eagles game, we had the Eagles to cover the 4.5 points. They did that. I had given an over and an underperformer. My overperformer was Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs had 18 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown, averaged 4.5 yards per carry. And then my underperformer was A.J. Brown. Packers don't play man coverage. A.J. Brown doesn't typically do great against zone coverage. A.J. Brown ended the game with 1 reception, 10 yards, 0 touchdowns. Devontae Smith is the zone guy, and Devontae Smith had the better game. Devontae Smith had 4 receptions, 55 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then the Sunday night football game was the Buccaneers versus Washington. We both thought the Buccaneers were going to cover those 3 points. They did not. The 3-point spread actually went the other direction. But I had an overperformer and then a player that I said to watch out for. My overperformer was Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving had 17 carries for 77 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 6 yards and a touchdown. So I'd say Bucky overperformed. And then the player I said to watch out for was Mike Evans going up against LaShawn Lattimore. It was kind of more of get your popcorn ready game, but Evans had a lot of tangibles on his side as well, and he did not disappoint. Evans had 7 receptions for 92 yards and 1 touchdown. Also 0 punches thrown in the game from those two, which is a step in the right direction. I think Evans beat Lattimore in everything except the final score of the game. So how about you, Mama? What did you have for Sunday?
Well, Sunday was an exciting day. Denver versus Buffalo. Denver came out, scored a touchdown in the first quarter, and 0 the rest of the game. Fourth quarter touchdown to Curtis Samuel was 55 yards, and that was the long touchdown that DraftKings had the special on. So kudos to whoever picked Curtis Samuel in that parlay. So in that game, I said Josh Allen was going to have a great game, and he did. He's 20 of 26, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know he ran the ball as well. He's just amazing. I said Javonte Williams in Denver was going to have an underperformance. He had 7 for 29 yards. He caught 2 of 2 for 14 yards. He actually had the highest running back carries on the team, which was surprising. But Denver just never came out of the gate after that first touchdown. I also said Dalton Kincaid would have a slow day. He caught 3 of 3 for 47, pedestrian. My sleeper was Max Hollins. He caught 1 of 2 for 19 yards, so not really much of a deal there. I said Denver's defense would overperform, and they had 2 sacks. They gave up 31 points, no turnovers. Josh Allen just shredded them. I also thought Mims would be a good pick. He had 2 rushing. He rushed two times for 1 yard. He caught 2 of 4 passes for 12 yards. Again, Denver was just way overmatched here. It just shows how far, what a difference between playoff teams. I mean, they're both in the playoffs, but Denver is not in the same league as Buffalo. And the next game we were talking about is the Green Bay Packers at Philadelphia. And Philadelphia covered that, and Thank you, Philadelphia, and good luck in the playoffs. I'm very happy for you. Thanks for taking care of business. I picked Jordan Love as my overperformer, so I think I put the kiss of death on him. Yes. He did have a decent game. He completed 22 of 32 passes for 212 yards, no touchdowns. He was intercepted 3 times and he was sacked 4 times. He had 2 rushing attempts for 10 yards. He had a rough day. I said Kraft would underperform because I thought he needed to stay in and protect Love, but with all the decimation and injuries to the wide receivers, Kraft ended up having five passes and he caught all 5 for 26 yards. He had the second most targets on the team. I also liked Saquon as my Philadelphia overperformer. He ran the ball 25 times, 119 yards. He didn't score a touchdown though, but he was, kind of on cruise control. Hurts was my underperformer for Philadelphia. He passed 13. He connected on 13 of 21 passes for 131 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, ran the ball 6 times for 36 yards. An okay day. I don't know. He didn't need to do much. Everything else was clicking along. That defense was unbelievably good. And then I have one more game here, don't I?
Buccaneers, Redskins, or Commanders.
Buccaneers, Redskins.
Commanders.
Yep. Commanders. I took. What did I take in this one? I got my notes somewhere here. Okay. Yep. I took Baker. Oh gosh, he had 15 attempts. He connected on 15 of 18 attempts for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 fumble. Ran the ball seven times for 23 yards. They lost this game on a doink field goal, so that was hard to take. And then I also thought McLaren was going to have a big day. He caught 7 of 10 for 89 yards, 1 touchdown. I said Brian Robinson would be the underperformer on Washington. He had 10 rushes for 16 yards, caught 4 of his 5 passes for 22 yards. Eckler was the running back of choice that day. The other running back that I thought was going to underperform was Rashad White. He had 1 carry for 1 yard. He had 2 targets, and he caught both of them for 14 yards. So, yeah, it looked like they were overmatched a little bit by the power of that offense on Washington. But it was a very close game. Went down to the end. Like I said, that kicker was something to watch, though. He's fixing his socks, trying to get his helmet on, putting his hair. Like, I was like, this guy's a mess. But he somehow made that kick. I mean, when somebody say that the pole is like 6 inches wide and you hit that the wrong way and it's going to go the other way. He got lucky and he knows it. But Washington moves on. So, all right, what else we got? We got something else for tonight, don't we?
Yeah, so tonight we have the Vikings versus the Rams. It's a quote-unquote home game for the Rams, even though it is in Arizona. Rams are the underdog. Rams are getting 2.5 points. The total is 47.5 points. This game will be played in Arizona in the Cardinals Stadium. So it is a stadium that the Rams are probably more familiar with, considering that it's a divisional stadium. From what I've seen, ticket sales are about 50-50 though. And I don't know how many Rams fans from LA will be traveling as well. Not really obviously a great situation happening there. So I think that may be part of the reason why the Rams are only plus 2.5. But I've got 2 players I'm picking for tonight's game. Both of them I'm picking as overperformers. The first overperformer I'm picking is Puka Nacua. Stat that I really like to look at for wide receivers is a stat called yards per route ran, which is basically how many yards the receiver gets while running routes against a specific coverage, if they get the ball or not. So the Vikings run mainly zone defense throughout the season. I'm not really anticipating that to change. Vikings run man coverage probably about 15% of the time, with their main man coverage being a cover 1 scheme. Puka Nakua has 3.65 yards per route ran as an average on the season. And that's the only man coverage that he's going to see consistently. Again, that's right about 10%. Then we start getting into the zone coverages, which is where this is the defense that Puka's going to see consistently throughout the game. Vikings run cover 2 about 24% of the plays. Puka Nakua has an amazing 5.46 yards per route ran against cover 2 on this season. That is elite levels. That is above every other superstar in the league against cover 2. And then against cover 3, though, the Vikings are going to run cover 3 about 25% of the time. Puka has a 4.43 yards per route ran against cover 3 on the season. Again, that is still super elite. Anything above 4 is, 1% here. And Puka's got that in 2 of the 3 coverages we've gone over. And then the Vikings also run cover 4. They're one of the few teams that will run the cover 4. That is because the Vikings are a zone primary defense. Vikings run cover 4 about 20% of the time. It's not a defense that a lot of teams run and implement very often, but Puka does have great numbers against that as well. Puka has 3.23 yards per route ran against cover 4. So against the cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, and cover 4, the average yards per route ran for Puka today is a 4.192. Just to put that in perspective a little bit, Ladd McConkey, who was one of the overperformers I picked, just had a spectacular game. The highest yards per route ran against a single coverage that he has on this season is 4.0. So all of the stats here on paper show that Puka is going to get fed the ball frequently and often. It's consistently happened throughout the year. He's Stafford's favorite target. And then on top of that, the Vikings defense is terrible against stopping the pass, especially to wide receivers. The Vikings came into the playoffs as the lowest ranked pass defense team of any playoff team that came in. Vikings are allowing, on the season, Vikings allowed 183 receiving yards to 2 wide receivers per game this season. That is far and away the worst and the highest average of any playoff team, even counting the teams that have already been eliminated. The Vikings are the worst there. Then the other player I'm going to look for to overperform is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones hits a lot of the criteria and tangibles that I like to look for when I'm picking wide or running backs. Aaron Jones is averaging more than 4 yards per carry on zone and man run schemes this year. Then on top of that, the Rams are also allowing more than 4 yards per carry against man and zone runs. So I see Aaron Jones getting favorable runs here. On top of that, the Rams aren't a spectacular run stopping defense. They're not really a great defense in general. But the Rams on the season have allowed 101 running back rush yards per game. So there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come there. Another reason why I really like Jones is the touchdown upside. The Rams have given up 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. Jones also gets a fair amount of carries inside the 5-yard line. With Sam Darnold against the Lions last week, he didn't look himself. He looked a little bit like he was second-guessing himself, especially when they were in that green zone within the 5-10 yard line of scoring. Darnold did not, he hesitated. He wasn't pulling the trigger. Kevin O'Connell maybe thinks to himself, we're gonna run the ball more in those types of situations. And I could see Aaron Jones getting that, especially if this is a close game, which less than a field goal is the spread here. So I could see this being more of a ground and pound game, especially if the Vikings get close to scoring. And we'll see how Darnold does. But based on that last week, he did not look great in the biggest game of his career. This is now the next biggest game in his career. So we'll see how he bounces back. Mamma Mia, who are you looking at?
Well, I think a lot of what you said is very true. Sam Darnold has had ghosts. He's had 8 games this season without an interception, and then he's had 3 games without even a touchdown. So he's kind of up and down. He is the number 1 or the number 7 ranked quarterback in the league. He's got 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Stafford is the 19th ranked quarterback. He's got just 20 touchdowns and 8 INTs. But the first 7 games, I think, he didn't have Puka or Cup, so things are a little bit skewed there. My overperformer in this game, I think, is going to be Jordan Addison. I think they're going to need, Jefferson to pull some coverage, pull a safety over the top, and Addison and Hockenstein and Naylor. Sam Darnold's got to look elsewhere. He's got to, and release that ball. Don't be, afraid to get it in there. During Addison at Detroit, he only caught 1 of 6 for 0 yards. He was abysmal, but you got to move on from there. And like you said, LA's defense is a little bit different. I think that the DBs in the Rams are they're still cutting their teeth. There's Durant, Curl, Kitchens, and Weatherspoon. They're going to be my underperformers for this game. I think they're going to have their hands full with this receiving core. My underperformer is going to go counter to what you said. I'm picking Aaron Jones to not have a good game. In week 8, when they went into LA, he had 19 carries for 58 yards, 0 touchdowns. He caught both his targets for 37 yards. He did not have a good game. He can be shut down. He's not the Aaron Jones that, we knew 5 years ago. It seems like he shows up sometimes, but I got a feeling that they're going to scheme against him and say, Darnold, it's on you to beat us. Okay, so I think they're going to stop the run. My other overperformer is Kyrene Williams off of the Rams, the running back. He was rested last week against Seattle. The week 8 game, he had 23 rushes for 97 yards, no rushing touchdowns, but he caught 5 of 7 catches for 19 yards and 1 touchdown. I think they're going to try and get him involved. I also have some sleepers. I like Demarcus Robinson. He flies under the radar. He did have 2 touchdowns in the last meeting against Minnesota. He leads the team right now with 8 touchdowns. The other sleeper, which is a real stretch here, is C.J. Ham on Minnesota. I don't know if we need a spider 2 wide banana play or something, but you got to take some pressure off of Darnold. It's not going to be Aaron Jones, so why not? Why not split C.J. Ham out and run a crazy play that has him open? He might be somebody who comes into play here. The last meeting, the Rams won 30-20. They had 3 sacks and 1 safety, and Stafford had 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks. Minnesota leads the all-time series in this rivalry. 27 games won to 19 by the Rams and 2 ties. I am going to pick the LA Rams, 27-24, so it'll be over the 47. And I think a turnover by Minnesota is going to cost them the game. And God bless LA. Stay strong. These fires will be put out, and as long as you guys are healthy, you can always rebuild your properties. God bless you. That's all I got, Tike.
So if C.J. Ham, that's a bold pick. You need to put him on your DraftKings longest touchdown. You'll probably, if he does, you're gonna win the $2 million yourself. So you definitely need to put him in on yours. That's the boldest prediction I think I've heard in a long time. I'm with you. I'm also taking the Rams to cover. I don't really want to play the disaster narrative, but when disasters and things happen in cities, their sporting teams do typically tend to win. Rams are an underdog. The Rams, since after the trade deadline is when the Rams offense has gotten healthy. Since they've had all 3 of technically 4 of their superstars, Kopp, Nakua, Williams, and Stafford, they've been lights out offense. They have just been a phenomenal offense. Vikings defense has been good. Vikings defense is great at causing turnovers. Matthew Stafford is the definition of a veteran quarterback. I don't think there's going to be a lot he hasn't seen. There's a lot of film on the Vikings already. You know Stafford's been watching that on those weird Vikings plays where they move their defensive guys around and they're running across the field to try and confuse the quarterback. Stafford's smart. He's going to be ready for that. So I'm taking the Rams. I'm going to take the 2.5 points on the Rams, although I think they could win this game straight out. As for the total, we got quite a bit of overs throughout the weekend, so I would maybe lean the under here. I think this will be a little bit closer of a game. But I think the safer pick that I'm more confident on is picking the Rams. So that's what I would go with. I'm going to go with the Rams plus 2.5 points. If I had to pick an exact score, I would say probably 21-14. I could see both of these coaches being very aggressive and not trying to kick very many field goals. But we'll see how that goes. It could be an all field goal game too, but I think these coaches will play aggressively and maybe pass up those field goal opportunities for touchdowns.
And they know each other very well, these two coaches. So, yeah, Kevin O'Connell was on the Super Bowl offensive coordinator, and Sean McVay has a phenomenal memory, so anything that he pulls out of his hat is going to be surprising even to Kevin O'Connell.
That's an interesting tidbit. I did not realize he was on that offensive team. He was the offensive coordinator?
Don't quote me.
Well, he was on the team. I didn't know that. So that's
yeah, I believe he was. Yes.
Yeah. So McVay knows everything about him because he doesn't forget anything.
They both know each other very well. Yeah. But I think the student won't take over the teacher this time.
No. All right, everyone. So that's all we have. Enjoy the Monday night game. We will be back with the divisional videos for next week's playoffs. Thank you.